Let's start with our most used tense in German, the Präsens or present. Just as the name indicates, this tense is used to talk about the present. And unlike English, where we have two present tenses, in German we have only one. And that's the one we're gonna learn now. So how do we form sentences in the present in English? Some example sentence could be, for example, I go to school, he studies German, they are watching a movie, and so on. The first two sentences, I go to school and he studies German, are in a tense that is called the simple present. The simple present is formed by taking the root of the verb and, in the case of he, she and it, adding an s. In the sentence I go to school, go is just the root of the verb to go. And in he studies English, the root of to study is study, and because the sentence is in the third person singular, so he, she or it, we add an s. He studies. And you will see in a few seconds that the German Präsens is not too far away from that. The other example sentence that we have here, they are watching a movie, uses the present progressive. So as we already learned, in German we don't have any progressive tenses. Therefore, in German this sentence would also be translated with the Präsens. So with this one tense that is pretty close to the simple present in English. Let's take a look at the translations of the three sentences. I go to school in German would be translated with Ich gehe zur Schule. Ich gehe zur Schule. He studies German would be translated with lernt Deutsch. Lernt Deutsch. And they are watching a movie would be translated with Sie schauen einen Film. What's interesting for us now is the verb form. Because in all of these sentences, the verb form is the present tense or Präsens of the corresponding verb. If we take the first sentence, for example, Ich gehe zur Schule, I go to school, we have gehe. That's the first person singular of the verb gehen, to go. Gehen. Gehen is a so-called infinitive, like to go. The normal form of a verb. What we now need is the root of the verb. Remember, in English we get the root by leaving out the to, so the root of to go is go. In German we leave out something else. The root of gehen is ge, so we leave out the en at the end. So the root in German is infinitive minus the ending en. The same in our next sentence. Lernt Deutsch. Lernt is the third person singular of the verb lernen, to study. Lernen is our infinitive. And again, in order to get the root, you leave out the ending en. So the root is lern. You will see in a minute where I'm getting with this. And the same also goes for our last sentence. Sie schauen einen Film. They are watching a movie. As I already mentioned, we don't use a progressive form here because we don't have any in German. So the sentence they are watching a movie would be the same as they watch a movie in German. They watch a movie, Sie schauen einen Film. Sie schauen is the third person plural of the verb schauen, to watch. And again, we get the root by leaving out the ending en, so the root of schauen would be schau. But what do we need the root for? In order to form the present, das Präsens, in German we need the root of the verb, which we now learned, is the infinitive minus the ending en, and then we add the Präsens ending. Remember, that's the same thing as in English, just with the exception that English only has two Präsens endings, either the root itself or the root plus s. German has a little more than that. We have the ending e for the first person singular, st for the second person singular, t for the third person singular, n for the first person plural, t for the second person plural, and finally again n for the third person plural. If we take the verb machen, for example, to make, we could conjugate it like this. Ich mache, du machst, sie es macht, wir machen, ihr macht, and sie machen. So we take the root of the verb, in this case mach, the root of machen, because we've left out the en of the infinitive, machen becomes mach, and then we add the Präsens ending. Mache, machst, macht, machen, macht, machen. And that's the way we form a Präsens in German. Now it's your turn. In the following, I will be giving you a verb, and your task is to conjugate it in the Präsens in German. I'll show you what I mean by that. Let's take the verb suchen for example. So I give you the verb suchen, to search, and what you do now is conjugate it. You do this by first getting the root of the verb. Remember, that's just the infinitive minus en, in this case such. So suchen minus en equals such. And then we add the Präsens endings. So we have ich suche, du suchst, sie es sucht, wir suchen, ihr sucht, and sie suchen. One more time. Ich suche, du suchst, sie es sucht, wir suchen, ihr sucht, and sie suchen. The words on the left, so ich, du, sie, es, and so on, are called personal pronouns. They are the same as I, you, he, she, it, and so on in English. So remember, if you have the infinitive, you just leave out the en and get the root of the verb, and then you add the Präsens ending. Are you ready for the next one? This time you're on your own. We'll take the verb trinken, to drink. Trinken. If you like, you can pause the video and try for yourself. The correct solution would be ich trinke, du trinkst, sie es trinkt, wir trinken, ihr trinkt, and sie trinken. We get the root trink by leaving out the en, so we have trink, and then you just add the Präsens endings. Ich trinke, du trinkst, sie es trinkt, wir trinken, ihr trinkt, and sie trinken. Not that difficult, right? Let's have one more. This time we have the verb spielen, to play. Spielen. Again, if you like, you can pause the video and try for yourself. The correct answer would be ich spiele, du spielst, sie es spielt, wir spielen, ihr spielt, and sie spielen. Again, we get the root by leaving out the en in the infinitive, so spielen becomes Spiel, and then we just add the Präsens endings. Ich spiele, du spielst, sie es spielt, wir spielen, ihr spielt, and sie spielen. Once you know that, it's actually not that difficult, right? And remember, it's the only present tense that we have in German, so you don't need to learn another one. So you just take the root of the verb and add the Präsens ending. Pretty straightforward, isn't it? In the following, we now have a quiz where you can practice the endings and an exercise where you can do the same thing that we just did. I'll give you an infinitive in German and your task is to conjugate the verb. So to write down the correct forms for example, ich spiele, du spielst, and so on. And with enough practice, I'm sure that in a few minutes, this will all be a piece of cake. But German wouldn't be German if there wouldn't be some irregular forms. And that's where the real challenge begins. But more on that in our next video. Bis gleich. See you soon.